Hello everyone, welcome to my game. This is not a let's play. Obviously, because if this was a let's play, it would have said, let's play Slayer's Reign. But Slayer's Reign, yeah, that's my game. This is actually going to be a sort of retrospective sort of deal. You see, I first came up with Slayer's Reign in 2001. I have not even reached halfway finished on it in any version of this thing. So yeah, this is going to be sort of a retrospective sort of thing, as well as look at future stuff, and I think I'll also look at what I've done with it on RPG Maker. Yeah, this is RPG Maker, which came out in 2000. I did not get my copy until somewhere in the first half of 2002, so I was kind of late getting into this. I first tried out RPG Maker stuff in like 2001 with RPG Maker 2000 before I found out that that was sort of illegal. I mean, getting into it, I knew it was illegal, but I thought maybe what was going on was somebody made a game called RPG Maker that was based off somebody else's RPG Maker, so it was a fan-made game, and that was why it was illegal. But no, it was pirated. Anyway, I have with me 4 memory cards. Let's see, there is... Okay, first off, I'm going to just warn you right now, this is probably going to be more interesting if you've actually used an RPG Maker of some sort, or probably only if you've used RPG Maker 1 in general. But let's see, I've got here 4 memory cards that contain my game. I have 2 scenario data cards, the system data card, the anime maker card. We'll get into that momentarily. I'm gonna plug this stuff in. Alright, the system and anime maker are in there first. Let's see. Memory card not found. Oh goody, we're doing this sort of thing, aren't we? Time to jiggle it! Of course, I don't jiggle it within the memory card manager menu because that's how you corrupt memory cards. Let's try this again. There we go. Slayer's Reign. And we got both cards in there. Here's the utility. There's all the anime maker stuff. A couple test files, I guess. Alright. Slayer's Reign. Yeah, Erica. Because I like that name. So apparently I'd been working on this for 406 hours. And it's only 8 blocks long. Actually, I shouldn't say only because, like I said, it's not halfway, and PlayStation 1 memory cards hold, I think, 15 blocks. So, I'm not sure. The RPG Maker 1 has this trick where you can make the game think that it has the same memory card, but it's actually a different memory card for the system data. I'll explain system data and scenario data in a bit, or right now. Basically, system data holds the maps, scenario data holds the eventing. Alright, that's loaded. I'm gonna stick in the scenario data now. By the way, this is completely unplanned, can you tell? Alright, Ancient Battle uses all 15 blocks. Kinda sucks that you have to use multiple memory cards if you want a big game, but, you know, for scenario data, RPG Maker is actually built for it, but system data, you gotta either use the trick or you'd better plan to use your memory wisely. Yeah, as you can tell, I am definitely unplanned for this. Did I say that already? If not, then I just said it now. If I did, oops. Apparently that last block is not very big. Alright, so yeah, that's that. So here's the editor. It's very simple. You got your title information, which... Oh yeah, the title. I'm not really using the title, except I sort of was planning on using the title, but I was going to be using the title for the end screen. So, I'm going to say right now, I'm going to try to avoid as many big plot spoilers as I can, but going through these menus, there are going to be like spoilers for enemies, characters, and locations. You know what? Let's just start this the easy way. We're just going to start the game. I'm not going to play through the entirety of what I have. That would take a bit too long. Takes a moment for this to load. Oh yeah, that's because this screen here, every couple characters is an event, and I had to arrange them a certain way with the screen blackened, so that's why it takes a moment to load up. Because you can't move every single one of those at the exact same time, so it would have to arrange them one by one. Reason for that, I'll go ahead and go into here real quick, and I'll show you. Yeah, let's show you here. Where is it? I forgot how to use this thing. Oh, that's intro event. There we go. So, let's see here. You can't tell. Is it one of the side things? Well, apparently I can't show you, but basically, custom sprites in RPG Maker are arranged in a 3x3 pattern. 3 facing down, 3 facing side, and 3 facing up. What I had, in order to have the little text, is on each sprite, I used certain portions of the custom sprite, and some of them are on the side step poses. Actually, I say they're all on the side step poses, not like the mid step poses. I mean, the mid step poses, and in order to get the events on the mid steps poses, I had to have them all take a step or 3, which is why that screen takes a moment to load up. Great Dragon Gaming. That was a name I came up with. Well, I used to go to the forums on Enix before they got merged with Square. And one of my screen names, I went through a lot of screen names because I was sort of new to this whole web forum thing. And one of them was Great Dragon, and that's where this name came from. Nowadays, I don't really use the Great Dragon Gaming title thing because, well, for one thing, I don't make anything anymore, so... But also, I've changed it to Dracoon Creations, which is the end of what it says at the end of my Let's Plays. There was a short time where I thought about calling it 50 HP, because for some reason, in my random thoughts, 50 HP would come up a lot. I'm sorry I'm not really going through this. I want to talk about the rain at some point, so I don't want to skip the rain. But yeah, if I were able to release another game, it would be under the Dracoon Creations label. Anyway, this isn't the introduction to the game, of course, and the rain is a custom sprite because RPG Maker 3, or RPG Maker, does not have weather effects. RPG Maker 1, I guess I would say. It was the first one to release to the US. And if you've never used RPG Maker before, that's one of the default parallax backgrounds you could use. It's pretty neat, and I thought, hey, it's a great screen for talking about dragons being warped into another world. Ah, my gosh, this introduction, this took some work. Then we get to this part where it's showing scenes from a forest, and there's a couple, and as you'll see, they are sort of running from these ghosts. Yep, there's a couple of the ghosts right there. I don't care if I'm going to the text too fast or too slow. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. And right there, it shows what the real image of the ghost is. The ghost is sort of like a facade. How do you pronounce it? F-A-C-A-D-E. Facade? I think it's facade. But it's a image hiding their real selves. reason I wound up using ghosts is because the RPG Maker series don't allow a lot of... They don't provide a lot of monster graphics outside of battle, and I wanted to have non-random encounters. And in order to do that, I'd either have to have enemies that looked nothing like what they were supposed to be, or I decided to come up with the idea of ghosts, because that way I'd have something to use for the non-random encounters. And I came up with a backstory for it. Basically, they are ghosts. And here they are walking away from the couple as they go into the cave. But I remember my original opening was just scrolling text, talking about, when you hear the word dragon, what do you think of? And that sort of thing. And there's the logo for Slayer's Reign. It's sort of a ring. It's also a mirrored S. It also is an SR. It's a great symbol when you really think about it. Wings of a Dove is sort of what I want to say, because the Dragon Slayers are sort of a Peace Corps. And then I wanted to have it like fade into the grass here. And then there's a dog, and right when the dog pops up on screen, the logo disappears, because you can't actually make the logo transparent or fade away or anything like that. So I used the dog there as a trick to guide your eyes away from the symbol disappearing. And here we have our first couple of characters, our two main characters of the game. They're the two most important characters of the game. We got Seth, and we got Mick. Seth is the one there looking out the side window that you can't actually see, and Mick's the one reading the book. That dog in the beginning there was sort of a new addition to this opening. Drew, who has a YouTube channel of his own, maybe I'll link to it, maybe not, did a Let's Play of my demo of this game, and that was before I added the dog. Oh boy, this opening... This sequence here was... Oh, I can't really remember. Oh, did you see the lightning up top? That was a newer effect, not terribly new, but I wanted this scene to be a lot more interesting, because originally the scene was just them two standing where they were now, and I wasn't really paying attention to the text. I remember once I had it so that Seth was all, "You told me you saved the world from a dragon," and I believe one time the story was that the dragon that Mick saved the world from was 10 stories tall. I was smart enough to change that fairly early on. The fool! Now here we're going to be going into a flashback. Originally, he actually introduced a flashback like he was talking to somebody, but somebody who tried out my demo said that it didn't really make sense, so I changed it so that he just has his own flashback, not really explaining a flashback to somebody, just something that he himself has a flashback of. Basically, how it originally started, the flashback was, it started 10 years ago in the town of Beneld. I was a map maker back then, and I unpacked my things and went into the pub. But now he just imagines it. Also, we're about to see something that nobody else has seen yet. Ambience. This scene is not in any previously released version of the demo. Now, RPG Maker 1 does not actually have ambience, so I sort of had to improvise as part of the eventing. And since Mick wasn't going to be telling the viewers that he unpacked at the end, this scene replaces that and lets it know sort of as part of the flashback rather than Mick explaining it. And so the game begins. You finally get control. I'm going to hold circle button in order to walk over this building now. Yay! So these sparkles mark the edge of the map, but I can't actually go anywhere because I'm not supposed to leave. Yay! Forced barrier things. So if you haven't seen RPG Maker 1 by now, well, odds are you have because I let's play the games, but yeah, there we go. Go with Mick's stats. I'm not sure if those are final. I wasn't really... I don't know. Oh, you can see at the bottom left there, the currency is tals. I didn't want to do gold. I didn't want to do gil. So I made up something. Tals. It's short for talismans. Except not really. I just keep it tals, period. At no point does anybody actually say talismans. It's just tals. So as you can see, it's very quiet evening here. Also, Mick's hair is more brown. Since this was quite some time ago, I figure, you know, in the time span, maybe his hair changed color, so... his hair changed color. Now these other buildings are sort of lost. This building sort of gives an indication of what's going on. Close until it's safe to come back. Let's just head back into the inn for the moment. We're supposed to go into the pub, but here... Was this character in the demo? I don't think this character was in the demo. And we got a save point here. We're not going to really bother with it. And then the person up here is getting the room ready for people who are spending the night. Used to be that she was just standing there, hey, your room isn't ready yet. And then I thought, well, why aren't you up there getting our room ready then? So you're supposed to head into the pub here. And here's a scene that has survived the years. Go into the pub, you take a seat. There's a girl at the counter. I remember very early on in the game's development, the woman at the counter was actually called Woman at the Counter. Because that's what they called the woman at the counter in Final Fantasy IX. I think the camera movement here is something that more recent, because I'm pretty sure it used to be that he just sat there and wondered to himself. Throughout the years, I've made little tweaks that would make the game more interesting to look at, because early on I was fairly new to RPG making, video game development, and so a lot of cutscenes were just line after line of dialogue with barely any movement on the screen, so I'm doing a lot more to make sure that things are interesting. Benchell Wood. It used to be called the Mysterious Woods. Of course, the thing is, it didn't actually become mysterious until very recently, like a few days ago, and so what made them mysterious before then? So I decided to rename them the Benchell Wood, which is a combination of Beneld and Sheila, because the Benchell Woods comes between... it's in between Beneld and Mount Sheila, basically. North Zeron, that's the country that this place takes place in. There is no government here yet, but there will be. In the present time, there's a... No, not even in the present time. It's like... Oh yeah, at the start of the game... The official start of the game, the present time, is right at the beginning where sort of government is gonna start forming. I'll get into that in a little while. Knowledge limited. That's a pun. Yeah, basically, Mick makes maps. And then he turns into a dragon slayer. Kind of a drastic occupation change, isn't it? Coming up is another line change I had. Basically, the woman says, "You should go back." The original line was from Mick, something like, "I'm sure I can handle fuzzy woodland creatures," or something like that. But in the end, I decided to have him sort of take it more seriously. And then a little scene here of this guy going into the place. That's because the innkeeper got our rooms ready. Also, you'll notice that it's darker. And if you're wondering what that loud noise is, there is a train passing my house right now. It's loud. Now, there's a couple options. I could continue in here, say, yes, I'm ready to go to bed, and then go on to the next day, and that be that. As you can see, nothing's up here yet. Nobody's up here now anyway. This girl's back here. I could talk to her, say, hey, I'm gonna go to bed now. Or, there's an optional cutscene in here. And those two leave. There is a trick right there. You cannot have more than one event move at the same time, so what I did was made Mick an event and put those two characters in my party and had them walk out. And then made the party disappear and brought it to Mick, and now Mick's the party member again. Now, if we talk to the guy at the counter here, it doesn't matter where we talk to him from. I can't really control... unlike the PC RPG makers, there is no counter feature where you can talk to somebody across from a counter. So, on every space of the counter, I have to have an event that takes over to the guy behind the counter. So yeah, this is a optional cutscene. This is something that he actually brought up later on in the game originally, but I decided it was kind of pointless for him to bring it up that over there, so I decided to make it sort of a optional thing instead. And figure, you know, I should have other optional cutscenes as well. Can't think of any off the top of my head. Now here's a line of irony. Because here he says he's not the type of person to hold a grudge. He totally holds a grudge later on. Now those two people, they are up here now. So, if I wanted to, I could save, but I don't feel like saving. So, let's go ahead and custom menu. The thing about ends is, with RPG Maker, there is an end command, but you can't have custom text or anything. So for all my ends and stuff, and the shops, I'm having these custom menus here. Typically, basically you see here, the top option winds up being a choice, because the thing is, you can't have it so it's just these two options with the question. I wanted to have the options on the same window as the question, so what happens is you can choose the top question, but if you choose that, it just resets the question. So let's go to bed. You know, at this rate I probably will wind up demoing all I have so far. Ah, more ambience. If you can't tell, that's supposed to be a cricket. And here's Mick sort of wondering to himself. Originally it was a part of the flashback where he explained to the player what he was wondering, but now he actually is wondering. He pretty much decides that instead of going back home here, he'll move on just so he can report what's going on. Stat priorities. This is something I thought up fairly early on for my game. Basically, you can choose the rate that your certain stats increase. You could put priority on hit points, your attack power, or your guard power. And that's not supposed to be selectable. That's supposed to be for a certain party member you get later on. Anyway, basically the default thing is all even. I'm not entirely sure if I will be keeping this for future versions of the game. It depends on if I finish this version or not, because balancing this out is a little bit tricky. But we're just going to keep things all even for the moment. It doesn't matter anyway because, well, it doesn't matter anyway because the stuff is... oh, enemies. The enemies are not balanced yet. They might have stats, they might not. Let me check real quick. Quick save. It's a very useful feature whenever you're test playing. Let's see what the monsters here. Okay, yeah, the monsters do have stats. So, yeah, so here's like the monster information. I think this guy, every so often, does nothing. Yep. 21% chance that the slime will do absolutely nothing. Because it's like one of the first enemies you fight in the game, and I figure, you know, first enemy. Make it easy. Skill points of 1, skill points of 2, skill points of 1. Skill points is basically what experience points is. Because, I don't know, I wanted to have it different, I guess. Actually, yeah, that's why, skill points, because it raises these. Nature's Way? Forget exactly what that was. Training and Secret. Wait, do these all have counterattacks? Oh, I didn't know I did that. Or maybe it was a placeholder thing. I guess the idea was... oh yeah. Now I remember, certain things that, this is sort of newer detail, that certain stats, I was going to have them do different abilities, but I couldn't really come up with... A lot of these abilities are actually overpowered, because... Well, let's see here. What's an example? Okay, there's no good example. But basically, some of them are a bit overpowered, or some of them are useless, so I couldn't come up with enough for all 6. So I guess I made these counterattack. This was a... Okay, basically... This is what the effect. For this one, your HP goes up an extra 2 points and your attack power goes up an extra 1 point. In addition to your regular stat growth. All the characters were basically going to have, by default, the same stat growth. This is pretty much it. You'll notice that this stat is a lot higher than the others. This is Purity. That is, by default, it's called Magic Defense. It affects immunity to status effects. And basically, it goes from 0 to 9,999. And as it turns out, it's sort of on a percentage value. So 9,999 is basically 99.99% immunity. So starting off 50 is actually 0.5% immunity, which is why this is going up so fast as you level up. So his starting purity is 3% basically. He starts at level 6. But this training secret thing would be boosting your stats a lot faster. I think the idea was, I didn't have this planned out for certain, but I think at a certain point I was going to have it so you go to some place where you get this secret ability to unlock, which would allow you to level up a lot faster. just a lot better, a lot faster stat growth. And all even, by the way, is 111. But this would be a lot faster here. It would probably be later in the game, because if it was early in the game, that would seriously break the balancing. Looking at this, might as well go through some of the stuff. Message sound. I'd like to say that this gets turned off. We don't need a message sound. We especially don't need a collision sound, because that's annoying. It's way too easy to bump into stuff. And you don't need to hear like this every time. That would get annoying. I don't know. No, and this basically sets the song for the editor, which I don't want to have a song for the editor, because then eventually I'm going to get tired of the song, and then I'm not going to want to use it in the actual game. On that note, I'd like to point out that the cursor speed is at 1. That is the fastest cursor speed. It goes this fast. This is very handy, because in RPG Maker 1, since it is on PlayStation, there is no keyboard support. So whenever you want to have to type a message, you have to do this. Takes a while. And if the cursor speed was any slower, then that would take even longer. We'll cancel that. What map is this anyway? Oh yeah, it's Mount Sheila. On that note, I'd like to bring up something. There is a cutscene here. Actually, I'll bring that up when we get to it. Is there anything else I want to bring up here? Bag. Yes. Basically, this is all my inventory. All these, basically, you can have up to 250 items in RPG Maker 1. And apparently, I'm using every one. This was actually a discussion we just had in the chat room of the RPG Maker magazine. Basically, there's different weapons here. These are all placeholder names because I suck at coming up with names, and I figure I just save that for one of the last things to do. But basically, you got different weapon types. Different weapons would be doing different things. Like the axe, let's see. Basically, it's a powerhouse. It hits once, but it hits hard. But then we got the club, which is a blunt weapon, which would be effective against enemies with a tougher shell. The katana. The katana is a lightweight weapon and super fast, so rather than attack a single enemy, it would attack a group of enemies at once. And then we got like claws, which is only hits once, but the claws will be equipable by characters who can hold 2 weapons at once. Pillow fist? I think that's a joke weapon. Oh, yeah, I had little icons there because RPG Maker doesn't have icons for items, so I decided, you know what, I just have placeholder icons. Not all of them were that great. Shields. Shields do not affect defense here. They affect evasion. So they're an accessory rather than... Well, the thing of it is, let's go to the main characters here, the equipment. This is your equipment set. Shields would be equipable in the other hand. The problem is, with RPG Maker, there is no way to control whether a person equips more than one weapon or not. Well, actually there is. Let's see here. Who has... Can't equip. This is an item. A cursed item. You know what a cursed item is. It's like in Dragon Quest games where you have to go to some specialist to have an item removed from your equipment. Rather than do that, though, I decided to make the cursed items called Can't Equip. That way, you can't remove that to equip a different weapon. But of course, that gets rid of shields, because that would break the game. If you could equip the shield, you could equip 2 weapons. which is why it's an accessory that equips an accessory that increases. Where was it? Increases evasion. Because when you think about it, that's basically what a shield is going to do. It's going to block attacks. And evasion is actually a pretty nice stat to have. A secondary accessory would be shoes, which would affect your speed. Initially, you would only be able to equip one accessory, so you get your choice between evasion or speed. But I think eventually I planned on having a secondary accessory. Oh, another thing I want to bring up. Bows and arrows. Aiming brace. Oh, I think that's a cursed weapon. Yep, there's a cursed item. To make it so the person can't equip more than one of those. Basically, the bows would affect attack power, different strength of the bow, and the type of arrow. Some of them have different attack powers, but eventually get to a point where they have different abilities to them. Like the magic arrow, it's a magic craft type, so it would affect certain enemies. I'm not entirely sure if I'll be doing that. Or arrow spray, which would attack a group of enemies. And then we got armor, a lot of different armor, because I didn't want to have like specialized armor for each character. I wouldn't have been able to anyway. But seeing how many like of each type of weapon there is gives you an idea of how long the game was going to be in order to actually require this many weapons. I don't think there would be this many towns, but I would have certain weapons that you would find in treasure chests and stuff. And then we have specialized accessories that affect like magic by 20%, I guess. Or what's a different one? I'm not entirely sure what these did. Oh, this was a good one. It increases your immunity to status effects by 10%. These would be found hidden as you travel along the game. Then we got these key items, which would be for solving puzzles, and I planned ahead. There's all these extra key items. Then we get the crates here, which would be for a minigame that appears during the second half of the game. Parameter names. I do not use the default names. I wanted my own names. Except for equip. I don't know why I wanted my own names. I guess I wanted to not be generic. Of course, the problem with being not generic is you have to sort of deal with abbreviations like ABLE instead of ability, power, or something like that. I mean, you can only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters in these stat names. Now, the thing about this is, it's a rock paper system I need a drink.